Hello and welcome to the RAH Band Podcast Update, Episode 5. And for new listeners, this is a podcast dedicated to all things RAH Band. And today's episode is concentrating on the imminent release of the second box set, which is due for release on 19th of May. And to discuss this, we welcome back Danny Keene, a consultant to Cherry Red Records.
Hi there.
And Dean Verdin, the RAH Band superfan who helped to create this latest release.
Hello there.
So guys, it's been 6 months since box set 1 was released, and I think we can safely say that this was a great way to set the ball rolling magnificently for box set 2, which has already set the internet on fire.
Yes, so we announced the release of the second volume box set a few weeks ago, and what was absolutely fabulous was to see the initial interest from fans, because literally within a couple of days the box set was sitting in the Amazon Top 100 pre-order chart at number 50, and since then has been kind of like bobbling around just outside the top 100. So very gratifying for Dean and myself, after once again having spent quite a lot of time in carefully curating and putting this box set together, to see the initial interest from the fans has been so strong.
So Danny, why do you think this particular box set, the second box set, has created such a stir? Do you think it's because box set 1 came along to create the momentum, and the fact that maybe on the second box set you've got more familiar songs such as Clouds Across the Moon? Probably.
I think we had a very good critical response to the first box set. It was well received by the fans, and I think also because Volume 1 had come out, and it was quite obvious by the way that we've actually structured these box sets that they're covering a period of time. Obviously, with the first box set covering a period up to 1984, I think people then realised that there's going to be a subsequent box set that would begin from 1985 onwards, which indeed this second 5 CD box set does. And, as you said, also carries, probably true to say, probably best loved song, Clouds Across the Moon.
So Dean, you've been involved again with getting this box set together. How different an experience was it from box set 1?
Yeah, I mean, I've had the great pleasure over the last 12, 18 months working with Danny and both box sets together, and I think it's, what I personally think is a great achievement is across the 2 box sets, you've got 146 tracks, which, so many of them are appearing on CD for the first time. I think with the first box set, because we started at the sort of early years of the RAH Band with the Crunch album and the RAH album, where the second box set, it's that period of time which I think a lot of fans are more familiar with, and a lot of fans are more were introduced to the RAH Band with Clouds Across the Moon, like myself, So I think this is the response to it, I think, has been really, overwhelmingly positive. And, there's a unbelievable selection of songs on there. I mean, I literally had nearly 200 tracks from that period, so trying to whittle that down and sample that down into 75 tracks, that was a hard job.
And I've got to mention now is with the latter period of RAH Band, of course, there are more vocal tracks on there featuring Liz Hewson. Her style of singing, you could say, is very natural. Do you think that maybe that's one of the reasons why the vocal tracks seem to be more engaging with the audience?
I think we all love the work of the RAH Band from beginning to end, but I think there's a classic RAH Band sound, which I think, really came to the forefront in 1983, I think, with Messages from the Stars. And it's that tempo and that style of singing that Liz was, where Liz had that confidence, that I think, that period, what I would say is the classic RAH Band sound. And, a lot of fans are keen on that period and love the songs from that era.
It just so happens, Dean, doesn't it, that yesterday we had a lovely chat with Liz, and you posed some questions to her from some of the fans on the Discord platform. So let's listen to that now. Hi Liz, and welcome to the RAH Band Podcast Update.
Thank you.
And since we've started these podcasts, especially since the resurgence of the RAH band, we've been inundated with questions about Liz Hewson.
Oh, wonderful.
First of all, how are you, Liz?
Very well, thank you.
And Dean is with us too.
Hi, Dean.
Hello there.
I believe you have some questions from the fans.
Yes, indeed. And, you know, it's been interesting because I get a lot of questions sent to me about Liz and what she's up to and what she's doing. And so it's great that we can speak to everybody and let everybody know what you have been up to, Liz.
Ooh.
This question is from Johnny Sanchez, all the way from Chile. Again, you know, he's somebody who's very active and on social medias.
Yes.
What is your favourite RAH band song that you did and why?
I mean, in some ways it should be Clouds because it's been so amazing. But actually Across the Bay, which is also known as This Letter to You, that has a special place in my heart. Very, very special.
It's a wonderful song.
Thank you.
And it's one of those that I think often gets overlooked.
Yes. Oh, there's also Perfume Garden. It has a special place for me as well.
I think this next question, which is when and how did you first start singing for the RAH band?
Right. Well, Richard was beavering away in his studio as ever. And I think he had a song and we probably couldn't afford a proper singer in those days. So he said, come and see if you can do this. And he knows I'm a fair sight reader. So along with the coffee, I brought in my voice. So he had a coffee and we tried it out and it seemed to work and it was so much fun.
Following on from what you were saying about doing that first recording, this was a question that came up on Discord, another one of the social apps, which was, do you ever listen back to the songs and think, oh, I wish I'd done that differently?
Well, I should be humble enough to say yes, but actually, no. I'm very pleased with what he did with the voice.
Yes.
That sounds terribly self-satisfied, but it's not.
Just out of interest, Liz, you know there is a fashion now for sped-up versions of songs. And
yes.
that we have released a sped-up version of Messages from the Stars
yes.
and Clouds Across the Moon.
Yes, my daughter played me the sped-up version of Messages, and it's startling and wonderful and fun, ridiculous, but the kids seem to like it.
Well, we released that in November, and within a couple of weeks, it had 500,000 streams.
Which interestingly, I have a question from Eric Christopher, who's based in the States, and his question is, what do you think of all this viral interest that we've had in Messages from the Stars over the last 18 months?
I think it's absolutely wonderful, absolutely brilliant. I mean, who'd have thought it? It is astonishing, and thanks to all of you, because there's so many people working away at this. So grateful, but I think any publicity for the RAH band is to be welcomed massively.
Yeah, I think it's all good publicity. And
yeah.
I think as well, as well as Aaron, I've been following the RAH band for 40 years, so for me, new people to be discovering it, I think is just phenomenal. That's the best thing for me. It's like, yes, look what you missed.
Exactly. No.
Well, the amazing thing about it is when I've kind of interacted with a few of these kids on TikTok and everything, and they think they've discovered it. This is the wonderful thing. They think, what do you mean you know about this song? It's like, well, it's been out there since 1983,
Yeah.
So really?
Bless them. Bless them. That is great. So sweet.
As a teenager, I discovered the RAH band through Clouds, and then discovered that there was a huge back catalogue behind it. So I can understand how these kids are saying, oh yes, we've discovered it, same as we all did. This is another one from Eric Christopher. He sent loads of questions. And I think it comes back to what we were talking about before, which is, he said, your voice always sounded so natural. And, was that down to spontaneity, or because you're an accomplished musician, was that down to technique?
I think spontaneity originally, and then I went to a few vocal coaching lessons to strengthen my voice and get more confidence. And then there was a little technique in there, but no, it's me. It's just me.
This was a question from a chap called York. With success of Clouds and how massive that was, do you think that was just that magical combination of right time, right place?
Absolutely. I mean, apart from being an exceptionally good song and a wonderful arrangement, we were just outside our then house in the summer, and we were hearing Tony Blackburn, I think it was, playing it again and again and raving about it, and thought, God, there's something happening here. And it was extraordinary. And I think it appealed to people with a more jazz-orientated turn of mind and soul and things, and just everything. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love this question. This is great. Somebody sent this in on Discord, and it follows on from talking about Clouds Across the Moon, which is, do you ever look up at the sky, Liz, and see the clouds across the moon, and the song automatically goes through your head?
Yes. Is that Johnny Sanchez by any chance?
It wasn't. It was from one of the Discords.
Somebody else.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Every single time. Yeah.
You can't help yourself, can you?
No. But it's funny, but it's also very poignant.
We all do the same thing. If you're familiar with that song, you can't help yourself.
That's right. That's right.
So again, following on from that, obviously Clouds became such a big success. It got fantastic radio play, and it brought RAH Band to another audience, that hadn't been aware of them before. Certainly for me, I remember seeing it on Top of the Pops and thinking, wow, what is this? And I literally went out the next day and bought the single,
Aww.
And that was my journey, So this question comes from Will McCormack, who's very well known in
yes,
our little RAH Band family.
Yes.
Bless him. He's been my sounding board for the last 12, 18 months, working on the box set. Tell us about Top of the Pops. How was that experience,
Heavens. I mean, can I recall it? It was so exciting and so incredibly nerve-wracking. Can you imagine? I wasn't born to be a singer or on stage or anything. I'm a humble pianist, but it was extraordinary, and we just sort of whisked along by the process. The weirdest thing was being assigned a stylist, whereby we had to choose clothes and jewellery. Not my thing at all. And we sort of put in a space age dress with a wig and everything. Oh my gosh. I couldn't believe it. But it was just heartwarming that people were so lovely to us. Just the nerve-wrackingness of it. Just never been anything like it for us.
You enjoy the experience?
Oh my gosh, yes. So much. We also did a Soul Train. I don't know if you remember Soul Train.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
It was fronted by that lovely guy from Shalimar. And we did a funny children's thing called Whack-A-Day, I think. Wake up early or something.
Yeah, I remember Whack-A-Day with Timmy Mallet.
Yeah. So we had to do, yes.
Dean, this is your next task, to try and find this on YouTube.
I know, exactly. That would be so embarrassing. And then we were taken to Paris. So we did a few things there. I mean, it was a whirlwind of wonderfulness, if I could put it that way. And very, very grateful to have been through that.
That's it. That's all of the questions.
Okay, Liz. Well, thank you so much for coming along here and answering these questions. It's been amazing to hear these answers and to know how much you put into the RAH Band. And I think I can speak on behalf of all RAH Band fans. Thank you very much for everything.
Bless you. What a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, that was great to hear from Liz, wasn't it? I mean, she's such a bubbly character, and she seems to be totally unaffected by her fame in the 80s. And she's come back now and she's embraced this new interest in the RAH Band. And the stories she tells are pretty magnificent, aren't they?
Both Richard and Liz, I think, are overwhelmed at the resurgence in RAH Band and the level of interest and the amount of streams on Spotify and TikTok and all of these things. It's like, but we did this stuff years ago. But it just shows, I think, the test of time that, people are now realizing, what a brilliant musician and arranger and writer Richard is, but also I think the diversity of the RAH Band, that you go from one era to another and there's all these different kinds of styles and music. And I think what's very evident on box 2 is we didn't focus solely on what would have been the obvious, which was 1985 to 1987, 88. We've gone beyond that and included some of the tracks from Richard's vault, which were recorded in the early 90s. And now we've taken that up as well. There's a fabulous album called World Keeps Turning, which I had a promo of 20 years ago or so. And we've actually revived that album and put that on the box set. And it's a brilliant, solid dance album. It's pure 90s. And it just shows another side to the RAH band. It's like, I keep telling people, it's not just Clouds Across the Moon, They did other things.
So Danny, now we have the box set 2. How different is this to market from box set 1? Are there different techniques you'll be using and tapping into different areas?
Well, I think that certainly what we will be doing is promoting it via social media, coming up with some kind of interesting and different content to help the fans see it. But we'll be looking to do another unboxing video with Richard. We've also got a few other kind of like video and pieces to let people know about the box set. I think that also the fact that the packaging and design, which people can see now, is very similar to the first one, so they know it will be a companion piece. People will feel confident. I think that will certainly be of great interest. And once again, one of the things here which I think will be of great interest to the fans are there's 58 tracks on this box set that are previously unreleased on CD. And half of those 29 tracks are previously unreleased in any physical or digital format. So once again, lots of great content previously unheard or at least unavailable digitally, which I think hopefully the fans will be interested and excited to hear. And for me personally, one of the things I've enjoyed tremendously across the first box set into this second one is the development of the RAH band sounds, where what you're hearing obviously on the first album, The Crunch and Beyond, is that very kind of early to mid 70s kind of synthesizer kind of poppy sounds that then developed into kind of more kind of like disco through to the kind of jazz funk and soul, smooth soul sound of the early 80s into obviously one of the best pop songs of the 80s with Clouds Across the Moon. And then, as Dean said, through to the 1990s for the previously kind of widely unreleased World Keeps Turning album with that great 90s feel to it. So this box set, the fans would absolutely love. It's been a pleasure kind of working on it, and obviously Dean has been fantastic to kind of curate the various different track listing on the different composite 5 CDs within the box set, making sure kind of choosing the tracks which he thinks will be of most interest to the fans and sit well amongst all the other tracks that are on the box set.
That's great. And also at this point, we must mention Will McCormack, obviously.
What a guy. To be honest, he's been my sounding board for the last 18 months where I said, what about this? Should we take that off? We could put this on. Or Richard just sent me this track that I haven't heard before. But, we've gone backwards and forwards, and the same with Danny. It's been a nice little team, because the ultimate goal here is to present box sets to the fan base and to new fans, and to say, look at this body of work, isn't it incredible? It's 45 years worth of Richard beavering away and creating all of this this wonderful music. I think with this box set, you've got Mystery as its standalone album, as it should be, with all of the 7-inch single edits, none of which have been available before. And fans will know this, that there's something about the music album that there's a lovely story to that, which was it was meant to be released in 1987, and there was a change of management at RCA. It didn't get released. Richards offered it around a few other labels, and it sort of just disappeared. And it's finally now, and thanks to Richard and the endless days he spent hunting around his garage on our behalf, he found the masters for that album. So finally, we actually get to hear that album as it was meant to be in 1987, with all the correct versions of the tracks on, most of which haven't been released before. And where the thrill is, I think, is that discs 2 and 3 are like brand new raw band albums that you've never heard before, and I think that's great. I love that.
No, it's great. There's some hidden gems there, isn't there?
Is there not?
Dean, explain a bit more about how social media is increasingly playing a huge part in promoting all things RAH Band. I mean, as you know, you're in charge of the Discord platform, and all the Facebook groups and Facebook pages have seen a surge of interest. And even today, I looked on TikTok and we released a minute's video of the Crunch when they appeared on Top of the Pops in 1977. And I'm just looking at it now, and it's got 24,500 views in a day. It's just unheard of, because before we were getting about 500-600 views on TikTok, but 24,000 views in a day is incredible. It's really hard to keep up sometimes with all the comments. You're doing a great job, Dean, I must say, with answering all the questions for these new fans. Where are these new fans coming from? Are they fans from old, or are they?
I think what social networks have done is that they've connected people. I know a lot of these names from old that I've spoken to in the past, or we've exchanged CDs, or over the years, and but there's new people, there's fans of old, and I think the whole thing is about what social media does at its best is connect people, and again, just coming back to Liz disappeared off the radar in 1989, and in the last year or so, she's connecting with everybody on Facebook and also commenting on people's posts and questions as well. So it just shows you, I think, the power of social media and how it is bringing people together. I think there's a newfound love of some of the tracks that have been forgotten about or lost, and fans are saying, oh yeah, I forgot about that one. I say, yeah, don't worry, it's on the box set. But and I think that's great as well, as you can see, Aaron, the posts that Will and I are putting on the 80s platforms are getting superb engagement, and people going, oh, I forgot about this and I forgot about that. Nostalgia is a great thing at the minute, which we see across all music platforms with, as we were talking about before, the Rewind festivals and all of these things. I think a lot of people want to go back to those days, which were a lot happier and a lot carefree than they maybe think they are now. So
yeah, it's interesting. In fact, I studied the Spotify statistics. It's an incredible source of information. And we found just last week that Are You Satisfied had a huge spike in interest. And we sourced it back to the fact it was placed on a Michael Jackson playlist for about a week. And it was getting like 5,000-6,000 views every day. And it's just things like that. It's like, wow, someone's discovering these songs because of the immediacy of Spotify stats. We were able to kind of deal with it immediately, kind of put something in place to promote it even more. People say about social media and the digital world being, killing music. It's really kind of brought it to life again. It's incredible.
I think as well as social media, obviously we've been promoting both volumes on social media. The feedback for volume 2 is, people are like, wow, can't wait for this, so excited, great to see all of the mixes on and blah, blah, blah. And that engagement, I think, is really important as well for companies like Cherry Red, who are doing the physical product and saying, you can own this as well. And I think the two work so well in tandem that one creates interest for the other and vice versa.
Let's talk about that, Danny. With the digital world being quite prominent, how has this affected the CD world? I mean, there's still a demand, isn't there?
I think it's been reported in the news, obviously, that the sales in CDs have dropped off over the years. But one thing which companies like Cherry Red have found is that when it comes to doing reissues of albums, when you're trying to recreate the packaging and kind of re-promote and to reissue, quite often the fans who want to be buying into and listening to that music are very happy to purchase it in a physical format, whether that be vinyl or, in this instance, CD. And that's why I believe that certainly for these box sets, releasing them as we have done as two very concise, well thought out, well packaged, well sequenced track listings as a 5 CD box set, I think has done particularly well for Cherry Red. And hopefully the fans that are listening to and appreciating to all the tracks that we've included are happy to do so in a physical format as opposed to digital. Don't get me wrong. There will be obviously a number of fans that probably, once they've bought the CD, maybe they'll upload it so they can listen to it and enjoy it on their phones and listen to it digitally as well. But I do believe that they're happy that they're able to purchase that in a physical format.
It's nice to know that it's still going and people are still wanting that physical connection with a music product.
Do you not think it comes back to how things used to be? Because I spent my teenage years on a Saturday getting up and then going around all of the record shops and holding physical products and looking at them and enjoying the artwork, which was as much a part of the product that you bought as the music, you know. And you had these huge big mega stores that are long since gone, unfortunately, where there was just, you know, thousands of vinyl, and sometimes you bought a record because you liked the cover. And I think, you know, what Cherry Red's been very successful in is appealing to that market of those people that remember those times and want to hold and see something because it brings back a good feeling and good memories of those days when you did that. You know, now we're so used to everything being accessible on YouTube and Spotify and everything else, and it's sort of removed what I think is a nice feeling of actually having a physical product. And Danny's right, you know, most of us get the product, put it on the computer and put the product in the cupboard. we're all, this is how music has developed and moved on, you know, but I still always think you've got that core element of fans that want a physical something to hold, you know.
Well, that's right. And as we said earlier, the box set 2 we were released on May the 19th. And if you go to the link below in the description, you can pre-order the box set on the link and keep an eye out on the social medias.
Can I just say one thing also, just to add, which you can add in there as well, is that when you said about pre-ordering it, is please put in, and don't forget that if you pre-order it from the Cherry Red website, the first number of people that do so would also get a free signed postcard by Richard. So
other RAH band news really for the rest of the year is we are hoping to do a release of the live album from the Jazz Cafe, which will include all the songs that performed that night. And there's also a very special project that Dean has been involved with as well, an electronica project, which is very exciting. I've heard the first run of that, and it's something completely left field, but it's still RAH band. It's brilliant. And Dean, just explain a little bit about that now, so we can tease the punters.
Well, obviously, as you know, we've been working through all of these discovered master tapes, and there was a collection of songs that Richard did. They were all sort of displaced, and as standalone tracks, you sort of think, well, where does that fit? And then over the last few weeks, I started putting these tracks together, and it plays as a really strong electronica album. And it's almost like a sequel to The Crunch and Beyond. It's unmistakably RAH band, and it's like nothing anybody's ever heard before. I sent it over to Richard. I said, I put these tracks together. What do you think? He was just blown away. He said, you know, listening to those tracks individually is a bit strange, but you put them together and it sounds amazing, absolutely incredible. And it's going to be out there.
So that's planned for later on in the year. So really, it kind of leaves us for last words about the box set too. Danny, can I have some final words for you about your thoughts on it?
Well, listen, just to summarise, it's been brilliant working on this second of the 5 CD box sets with Dean, also the wider team of people involved, Will, who we've mentioned earlier, designer Keith Davey, Nick Watson at Fluid Mastering, who's done an absolutely brilliant job in kind of mastering and enhancing the sound of all these tracks, and Lois Wilson, who obviously writes for Mojo and Record Collector and has once again interviewed Richard for the brand new sleeve note that's within the packaging for this. So I think the fans will be absolutely thrilled when they obviously get it when it's released on May the 19th. As you said, it's available from Cherry Red, Amazon, and all good record shops, as they say. Very much so. And looking forward to getting feedback from fans once they get hold of their copies and they have the chance to listen to it.
Thank you, Danny. And Dean?
I would just like to say as well that we've got 2 never ever heard before tracks featuring Liz Hewson on this volume that we discovered amongst the master tapes. There's a song called Every Little Drop and another one called Close to Home, which nobody, including me, which is rare, had heard them before. And I think that's great that we're discovering all of these amazing tracks in the vaults. And I know the fans are going to love those, so special. But as Danny says, absolutely hats off to Nick Watson, who I think has done an incredible job. I'm listening to the box sets now over and over again. They sound incredible.
Excellent. And as is tradition in these podcasts, we need to choose a play-out song. So I'll let Dean introduce this one on behalf of someone very special.
Well, we were talking to Liz yesterday, as you know. Liz's favourite track that she recorded is Across the Bay. What better song to play out with than Liz's favourite track?
Thank you, Dean, and thank you, Danny, and we hope to speak to you all very soon.
Goodbye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Perhaps a little time apart will make the heart grow fonder. You never seem to miss it till it's gone. Then, darling, maybe we'll make a brand new start, and it will be much stronger. And we'll say goodbye to all those warring games that we were always playing. The cold